All right, year eights, here we go. We are going to be designing or modelling your wine glass caddy in Fusion. So you've made it in timber. Now it's time to reverse engineer it and design it in Fusion. So this is what we're aiming for, something that looks like this. So let's get started. So to start, file new design, or if you've got it already open, you can hit the plus button over here. So it's going to take us into a new file, always starting with a create sketch. You can select any of these three planes. We'll talk about those a bit more in a minute. And then we're going to start with our solid blank that we started with. So our size of our piece of timber that we used, or finish size, was 300 millimeters by 70. So you can type them as you go, or you can dimension them afterwards. So that's our finished block size just there. So we're happy with that. All the lines around the outside are black, which means it's fully dimensioned. We hit finish sketch. It'll flip around into a 3D view. We can hit the extrude button, or shortcut is E. So if you want to get tricky, you can do that, but hit extrude first. And for this, we're just going to drag it up to 20 millimeters, or if you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit closer, it gets smaller increments. So 20 millimeters, or you can just type that in. So that's that for now. We're going to hit OK. Now, normally I do this step last, but it's important. If you look at this one, see how the grain direction is going the wrong way? We want to make sure we get that right first of all before we start drawing all of our holes and cutouts. So to do that, we want to go Modify, Appearance, and then what we can do is select the material that you want. This one is a timber one, or wood, so you can drag any of those. I normally like oak, so I'm going to drag the oak across. Now you can see what I've done there. The grain's going down the length of the timber, which is the correct direction. Don't worry about the edges. That's just a different superimposing feature. So if yours is like this, all we've got to do is go back into the sketch and then just flip those dimensions around. So get edit sketch. I'll right click on that icon and you just switch this from 70 to 300 and then vice versa. So you'll see mine will do the opposite. You can now see the grains going in the opposite direction. But for this, I'm going to go back and now we're good to go. So next bit. So same as we marked out on the top of your timber for your holes, we're going to do the same here. We can select the top surface, click that, and now we start marking out our holes. So up in the sketch menu here, you can see all the different types of shapes. So we use the rectangle to make the shape. So circles for drilling holes. So our center hole was 35 millimeters. Now, just to show you, I'll zoom a bit closer. See how when I hover over the middle of that line, it gives a triangle? That's what we want. And then same on the other side. You don't have to do this. You can dimension it afterwards, but I always find it a nice tool to make things a little bit quicker as we go. So 35 millimeters is this one. Next one is 15. So we'll line it up halfway again. So these are our little wine glass slots. So this one was 15 millimeters. It says on the drawing R7.5, which means it's a radius. And dimension-wise, what we've got to do, sorry about the cough, is dimension this from here to here, which was 115. Now, one thing we haven't done, which I forgot, is we've got to dimension, see how the circle is blue here? Before you jump ahead, dimension it to the side. Although we know it's in the middle, we've still got to dimension it so that the program knows exactly where it is. So click either side, and then you can drag that out. So now that's good. We know that's there. And the last bit to do is to dimension this one to here. So that's 35 as well. All right, and then we'll just do the circle on the other side for the second wine glass. So 15, dimension, or D is the shortcut for dimension. So 115, and then 35 up to the top edge or bottom. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so that's our sketch drawn for that. So next bit, finish sketch. Now we use the extrude function again. And what we can do now is, rather than just the whole thing selecting automatically, we've got different shapes here. You can see we've got the circles and we've also got the shape outside of that. But for this, we're going to select the circles, zoom out a little bit, come over here. And now what I can do is drag that down. And you see how it goes red? That automatically means that it goes to cut. So we cut them all the way through. And then that's where we're at the moment. So we've got our holes drilled, or cut out at least. And that's good to go for our next part. So next part, we're going to show you a slightly different feature that we may not have covered just yet. So we're going to use the fillet tool, which is up top. So around the ends, we are going to select the fillet tool. And what we can actually do here is click the corners. We can do one at a time, but because we've got it all sorted, we'll click them all at once. And the same with all the other features, you can drag stuff in. If you go too far, it won't work, but this radius is 35. And that'll give us, if I go to the top view, it'll give us a nice top-down view. All right, so that's really good. The other thing you might have just picked up is, see how you can see the depth of the holes? There is a camera view down the bottom here, which you can change, which makes it a little bit easier to do your 2D sketching. And see how now it's just straight on. So that's just the shape we're working with, which for this step makes it a little bit easier. So now we sketch on the top again. And we're going to do our little internal curve cutouts. So we're going to focus on just this end to start with. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the center of these circles as a reference point. And then we're going to draw a arc to create that curve. So the first one on the end, you can see how automatically it goes black, which means it's picking up the previous dimensions. So we don't need to do any dimensioning, which is quite handy. So to create our curves, there's an arc tool. Now I like to use the 3-point arc. That's my preference. Feel free to play around with the other ones, but this is probably the best feature for this particular drawing. So what we're going to do is anchor it onto the circle. You can see that X comes up. So wherever I go on this circle, it'll follow. So we can click there. Doesn't need to be perfect in the beginning for this, because I'm going to show you a little feature in a minute. And then you can see I've got the arc tool, how I'm bending that back and forth. Now, what I want you to do is to try and not overlap them. What we want to do is just have it sitting about there. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then the same thing on this other side. We can do the same thing. And then arc it around there. So again, they don't have to be the same at this point. We're going to do this right now. So the tangent up here, the constraints, there's a whole range of different constraints you can do. You can do equals or parallel. If I expand that down, you can see all these different constraints. But this one I'm going to use as a tangent. So a tangent is basically a straight line or a curved line that meets the edge of a circle. All right, so what we're going to do is click both the arc and this circle. And then you'll see this little symbol pop up. That's our tangent constraint. So that basically replaces a dimensioning tool. So we'll click on the other side. And now you can see that we've got one either end, which is what we want. We'll do the same down the bottom. Don't worry about that if that goes a bit crazy. And now we've brought that back down. Now, you can see we've done that, but they're still not quite the same. So what we've got to do is dimension the radius of these. All right, so radius is obviously half the diameter. So let's just play around with this and we'll go 60. And what we can do down the bottom here as well, if I zoom out a little bit, I'll make this 60 as well. Not quite just yet. We're going to click there. And I'm going to reference this dimension here. So whatever I do, if I change this one, the other one will change. So that is how we can do that. So if you want a slightly bigger curve, you can change it to 80. Or if you want to make it smaller and tighter and skinnier in the middle, you can do that. So I'm going to keep it at 60 because that's what I think is quite nice. So we hit finish sketch there. And then what we're going to do is extrude these two sections out. We're going to cut them away. So cut that out like that. And that's how you get your curve. Now, what we're going to do now is rather than doing that again on this side, we can pattern it. So we can do this here. We can do circular pattern. And what we can do here, this is our circular pattern menu that pops up. We can go features. So down the bottom is all your features that you've done. So we can select that last feature that we've done. And then the axis. So axis we're going to use for this is the circular bit in the middle, the circular hole. And you'll see it gives a little preview. Now that's got 3 iterations of it. We're going to bring that down to 2. And you should be able to see a little preview of what it's about to do. So it should cut away those bits just there. 3, 2, 1, presto. All right, so you can see that come out just there. So that's the basic shape of the curve. The last bit to do is to do the cutouts for the wine glass to slot into. So again, same process of that curve. We're just going to draw one end. Zoom in. So this is a 10mm slot. Doesn't need to be perfect across here. All right, so dimension, D for shortcut. We're going to make that 10. Now, the length of this doesn't matter as long as it overlaps. I'll just, for argument's sake, put 35. Now, you can see how it's not quite centered. All right, the easiest way I find to do this is to click one edge of it and then click the center of this circle. And then this will basically be half of that. So in this case, it's 5. It'll bring it back level. Now, the only dimension that's missing, which is not really that important right now, is that one just here. So we'll just put 3. And then that's all black, ready to cut out. So finish sketch, extrude, which is that button up there. Just select that. You can select the other bits, but for this, it's not necessary. Just spin it around a little bit so you can see it. Drag it out. You can go past 20, it doesn't matter. So that's that little bit there. We've got one side done. And then we do our final circular pattern. Features already selected. We select the axis and change it to 2. And you'll see that cutout comes in here. And just hit OK. And there we have it, team. That is our finished wine glass caddy holder in Fusion. So, congratulations. Well done.